Welcome to the Empowherment Show, a podcast designed to empower women like you to take control of your lives, make informed decisions, and redefine success on your own terms, beyond the noise of influencer culture.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Show. I'm Adama. I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Samantha and Maddie. And we have another super fun episode for you today, talking about travel and some of the transitory phases that we are in with travel right now. And travel is no longer just about like, where do you want to go? It's shaped by all kinds of different things. Travelers are changing. What they're looking for is changing. And to talk about that, we have our good friend, Kirstyn Scott. And she is a hospitality entrepreneur. She's building her own company. She's super passionate about travel and culture and creating inclusive guest experiences. And Sam and I were actually lucky enough to do kind of like a beta test with her earlier this year and late last year, where we went to Morocco for about 20 days that Kirstyn totally curated for us. It was one of the most incredible trips I've ever been on. It was incredibly meaningful. It was very intentional. Every piece of it was really planned out in a way that made us feel like the travel was worth it, the experience was worth it, and what we experienced together was impactful and enriching. So, Kirstyn, thank you so much for coming here today. You know, travel is kind of in flux right now, right? We've got so much happening. Other countries are looking at us. We're looking at other countries. So even though we're in a kind of crazy time, Kirstyn, can you talk about what motivated you to start a company, a travel company right now?
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me on, especially the three of you ladies are super special. And I appreciate the space that you're building. And that's actually why I'm building now too. So I know it sounds dorky, but there's this quote from Rent that says the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. And that to me is a personal mantra. When you think about when things are frustrating, when it feels dire, when it feels like you don't have a lot of control, one of the best ways actually to gain some of that back is to create. I don't see the world I want to see outside right now. So the best thing that I can do is build it.
This is such a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
The show, right? Our guest.
Trey Borden, artist. Yeah, just gave me chills, Kirstyn. Anyway, continue. But yeah, thank you.
Also, can I just say, like, hospitality entrepreneur sounds really sexy.
Yeah. Have many meanings there.
I'm like, I know that's my damn. That sounds hot.
It's so funny. I keep laughing because people are like, wait, you're going from finance to being like a hotelier. Like you see people kind of move their shoulders and then they talk about it.
I love that.
Well, also,
You have to do a little shimmy.
Right? A little shimmy shake.
Hotelier.
Yeah.
no one wants to go from hotelier to finance.
Right.
Not for any reason.
Especially because half of them pronounce it finance. So that just sounds even worse.
That just gave me the ick. No, hard pass.
I'm good. Okay.
What prompted this for you, Kirstyn? Tell us more about this journey of creation and how you arrived at this concept that you are now exploring.
So I think, especially because you probably have a mix of human beings who listen to this show, I will totally say, this is not where I thought I would be starting. And I think Adama has seen some of like the shifts and turns in this in particular. But at first I was working in private wealth at Goldman, and a lot of people were starting to talk to me. I was client facing in certain regards. And so many people started talking to me about, I love travel, but I want to invest in it as an asset, basically. So how do I do that? And while I deeply got to understand how charitable people are who are in that private wealth segment, the people that I care most about are actually the segment right under that. So people who would be considered workplace wealth. So individuals who've largely made their comfortability out of things like stock, equity, bonuses from big corporations, where you probably didn't grow up wealthy. If you feel comfortable, that's something that you've made now. And those people are actually driving 63% of luxury travel spend. People always assume it's like the 1%. I'm like, the 1% own homes.
Right.
They're in the Ritz suite a couple nights a year. They're in their house in the Caymans for a month.
Or a yacht.
Or exactly.
Right.
And it's, so this group of people that I care about, people whose wealth is at risk, the more that class splits, people that have worked hard, people that are diverse, the vast majority of them are women. These are all people that I care about, and they're spending money to feel something when they travel. And instead, I moved from travel as an investment tangibly to how do we actually create not just spaces that feel like you, but spaces that you can actually bring something that is tangible home. And not just for asset wealth creation, which we will do through artist residency, but also a few other things which we're not ready to reveal yet, but I will tell you when we are.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, so that is Kirstyn, and I will tell our listeners, I actually met Kirstyn. We worked together at Visa, and I had this young woman sitting next to me who was so beautiful and so smart. And she had like all these flags from like a bunch of different colleges on her desk.
I remember this.
And I was like, what is going on? Like, what are all these flags? And she was like, oh, those are my alma maters. And I was like, alma maters? Girl,
Right.
what are we doing? Like, how many degrees you got? And what did you tell me, Kirstyn?
The answer is 3. There's student debt that comes with that, by the way, but the answer is 3.
And these are top flight universities. And so I just look at this woman and I'm like, what are you doing here with us idiots?
Wow, Adama, I was sitting next to you. Thank you. I worked for you, bitch.
Look, I was talking about myself. Let me be clear about this. I have always preferred to work with people who were far more intelligent than me.
That says a lot about you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're poultry 2 degrees.
Right. Exactly. Like, shut up. I remember Kirstyn, because yes, I was working for Adama at this point, and we were all sitting in the same vicinity. And I remember noticing the flags and being like, okay, this chick don't mess. But also, Adama and I were having the hardest time getting like a point across to executives about like something related to legislation. And we were looking at each other like, why do they not understand this is as existential as it is? And Kirstyn, you looked at like the PowerPoint or the memo or whatever we had created, and you were like, ladies, let's do this. And you like coached us on how to like write in a business setting and communicate our point. Yeah. And it was like, honestly, one of the most memorable experiences I've had of my career, because like you have a degree in like strategic communications, right?
I was about to say, is this sponsored by Columbia's Strategic Communication Master's Program?
Yeah.
I was not aware.
Yeah. No, it was, but like you put it to work, girlfriend, because we were like, oh, got it.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you. Thanks in hindsight.
So it turns out that isn't a bullshit degree.
Tis not. Well, this is not. It depends on if you're using it or not. I know both people are
not using it and how you're using it. Let's be clear about that.
Right. On both accounts.
Well, so we will dive back into kind of the intentionality of travel that you're looking at, but let's look at some of the practicalities of it. So there's some changes that are coming up, and I think I mentioned on another show that we did just about our own travels that I had to, for the first time, get a visa to get into the EU. So there's some changes coming up for Americans around international travel. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
And I think what's super confusing, one, it's confusing for the European airports on their own, and like particularly the European airports. There's the EES and then there's the ETIAS, which are 2 completely separate things. One is mandatory. One is for everyone, and it's not necessarily mandatory if you need a visa. So,
Or Kirstyn?
So that's I can look that up really quickly. I forget what the
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
no, it's fine.
it's a free exit system.
And
yeah.
then it's like it's the European Travel Information Authorization.
That sounds right.
Authorization system.
Got it.
So one, you probably have experienced some of this if you've been traveling in any way, shape, or form to Europe recently. It's just rolling out through all countries by like October 12th on the EES side, where you have to do biometrics. You actually have to give like fingerprints and actually give like a facial recognition software, what you look like to enter the country. That is Europe-wide. On the other side, then there's the ETIAS, which will apply to us, presumably as long as we don't need a visa to go into a couple of European countries. So if you do not have a visa and you are from a third party country, so non-Schengen, you're going to need to go through ETIAS. The good part is that once you go through it once, it's like 20 or 30 euro and it lasts you for like 5 years. So it's like a one and done, as opposed to something that you're going to consistently have to do. That is frustrating. But I think in a lot of ways, it makes our shoulders go up because we're not used to things like that. But the reality is that there are so many people across the globe who deal with things like this every single solitary day, trying to leave their own country's borders. We're just no longer the exception. And I think that is a really uncomfortable reality.
Privilege is showing.
Yeah. It's a lot of
exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? It always makes me think about how also completely pissed I would be if I had lived in the UK during Brexit. Because for them, right? But they'd like, I mean, I guess we also did this to us, but like they really did it to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real.
And then there's also a lot of travel warnings that are happening. Some of it, I'm sure it's real. Like, obviously, we're probably still not visiting Syria, right? Like, there's Iran. There's areas where probably right now we're not visiting. But some of them across Africa and the Middle East, and even Latin America, they seem a little bit more of an agenda behind them, a little bit more isolationist. What's your thoughts? What is your thought on seeing some of this?
So it's interesting because it's a bit two-pronged. So I would agree with you that I think that we have escalated the reasoning, even if you look at the levels, because there's a lot of reasons that you would be a level 2 versus a level 3 when it comes to a travel advisory. The reasons in a lot of countries where people are brown and black feel a bit isolationist on purpose and to kind of create a bit of a separation. And yet right now, Spain and France are a level 2, but Senegal is a level 1. Like as of this morning, I just looked, which doesn't really make sense. Make it make sense. So to me, it's almost this dual injury of not only isolationists from countries that are, in the United States, you would be considered a minority if you were here. But I think on the flip side, it's also isolationists from our allies. And that to me is very concerning. Anytime we are pulling away from people that we have been on the same side with for an incredibly long time, that is of concern.
It is. And we have a pretty big Senegalese diaspora here. I mean,
yes,
it's not like we don't have Senegalese people here. So it does feel like something's not right about that.
Yeah, it feels a little, in some ways and shapes and forms, it kind of feels like they're just randomly picking out of a hat.
Yeah.
And then in other ways, it feels very targeted, which I think to an extent is on purpose, because when you make it seem like there is no strategy, it's more difficult to point to one, even though we can feel that there is.
Oh,
so
right.
That to me is
this administration in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well,
there are patterns.
Yeah, there are patterns. Their patterns are showing, I'll tell you that.
It's like gas via public policy.
We're being gaslit by this entire administration.
Some
irregular
narcissists. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Well, I think some people are being gaslit because some people also can read between the lines or the patterns, right? And go, huh. Yeah, that takes some mental acuity.
So let's go back into a more palatable subject. Let's talk a little bit more about your thoughts on travel, because your thoughts on travel, I mean, for those who don't have the privilege of knowing Kirstyn like I do, she's a curator. She is someone who always can tell you what is cool. And whether that is clothing or restaurants or accessories or food, like we had gone one morning to go to a farmer's market, and Kirstyn was like, hey, do you want to grab something to eat? And I said, sure. But at the time I wasn't eating meat. For a whole year, I didn't eat meat. And she was like, oh, there's a really good vegan place around the corner. And sure enough, there was this really good vegan place. And damn if it wasn't really, really good. I mean, that is how like everything is with her. She's always like, oh, I know this place. And then you go there and you're like, what the heck? How do you know about this? And she's just like, that's what I do. That's what I do. So how can, you said, I think only 10, I think maybe you told us this, that only 10% of trips today are considered transformational.
Yeah.
How do we raise that? Like, how can I, as a traveler, raise that level for myself?
So I love that. I think arguably we are the sum of the people that we surround ourselves with. Like, you do that in your own way. Like Maddie, you and I have never traveled together, but I watched Sam and Adama gravitate towards really interesting things that I hadn't even picked out for them in a country where, like, Adama had been there for a minute previously, but not a long time. And Sam had never been there. But I think that both of you arguably grew up in a way that, like, Maddie and I did not have, we semi had the privilege of, and people who are younger than Maddie and I definitely don't and need to figure it out immediately, which is you can't develop taste with only technology. Like, you actually have to go touch stuff. Like, go outside.
True. Yeah.
Go to a museum, go try to cook something. Go try a bottle of wine you've never tried before. Go build a mocktail if you're not drinking. Like, you can't just DoorDash it and expect that you're going to develop a perspective. It's not going to happen. And I think so. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's so true. No, it's so true. And you just sort of put words on something that I noticed, but haven't been able to define, right? Because my daughter's 23. And so many of her friends, you look at their aesthetic or their rooms or the things that what they eat or drink or where they go. And it is very curated, but it was curated for them by its algorithm. And you can tell, you walk into someone's house and you're like, this is an Instagram living room, right? Like,
yes.
This is Miranda Priestley. Oh, you think this has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Iconic.
Right. This was chosen for you from a pile of stuff. Like, that's
right. By the people in this very room.
Yes.
Kirstyn, I'm curious because, I remember very clearly too, when you lived in San Francisco, you took a group of ladies do you remember the Riddler, the champagne bar?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm RIP the Riddler.
Right. Yeah. But you invited me and a handful of your friends to go have champagne. And I just remember sitting around the table and being like, these are my people. Like, you had just convened a group of like fantastic human beings. And we were talking about like every topic under the sun for hours, drinking perfect champagne. And it was like one of like my core SF memories. I don't think I've ever told you that. Like, it was
I love that though.
Yeah. You're amazing at curating spaces and places with people who might not have anything in common. And yet, because they're having such a fantastic experience, like we said, like tasting something, touching something, doing something, like that's what makes it so memorable. So I'm curious, where did this desire to like curate come from? Like, was there a childhood memory or experience you had that like fueled this unique trait of yours? Because it is very unique and special.
And how can we get it?
Goodbye.
More important.
I think, so one, I appreciate hearing that. But two, I'm going to disagree with you, but like really lovingly. You have a lot in common with the people at that table, which is why you could have enjoyed that experience. Like everyone is not going to be able to sit down and actually be present and enjoy a conversation and then have it imprinted in that way. Like I'm using your words, right? You said like, these are my people. They may not do the same job as you. They may not have the same background as you, but psychographically, you all are similar enough that it makes sense for you to share space. And I think that is something I am personally obsessed with. I am also deeply okay with someone not being my people. Like I'm really okay with that. And it doesn't mean I don't think that you deserve your own people. I hope you find your people. I hope you all love on each other endlessly. But I am ruthless about my community. But being able to do that is because I have a perspective. And I think you don't get to build that unless you try. So I think some of it is actually just going to stuff and figuring out what you do and you don't like. Mm-hmm. I think that that's totally fair. I finally cut a check to like join a young patron society in New York recently because I was like, I know I want to do this. I know I'm moving soon, but I still want to do this. And I consume art here in the city. I love the Whitney, but the Whitney's not for me. I love the Guggenheim and the Frick and the Met, but they're too far. I'm a West Sider. If I was on the East Side, this would be very different, but I'm not.
I'm a Met girl.
Right. I was going to say, you are in fact a Met girl, but Adama, what you should do is come with me to the ballet because that's what I decided on, was to be a young patron of the ballet. But
let's go.
Like, I love the ballet, but I also love the opera. But there's something about live art to me, the ephemerality of it, that makes me happy. And I decided, okay, that's something I can get behind. But I don't want people to just join that because they're like, oh, I just want to join the membership club. You should actually like it. But to know if you like it, you have to actually go try it.
Yeah.
So it's the investment of your time and sometimes of your money to actually just go try. But once you find out what you don't like, it just helps you get closer to figuring out what you do.
But I think that's a really important part because, like you said, technology has kind of done this thing for us and to us where people give you their opinion and they tell you what is not good, right? And a lot of times they are completely right. But I don't know that I could really appreciate a bottle of Perrier-Jouet if I had not drank Boone's Farm or like malt liquor. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to go with another champagne brand.
I thought you would. That one.
I mean, but that's the deal, right? Like until you've seen like a show that's off Broadway, then when you see like Audra McDonald and Gypsy, you're like, well, goddamn,
right?
Because it is something that's very, very, very different. And so I think sometimes instead of letting the internet just tell you this stuff is bad because it is bad, sometimes you still have to try it.
You do.
I'm not saying stupid stuff, and I'm not saying crack cocaine or meth or something like that, because those are objectively bad. Do not try those. But I do mean food, restaurants, plays. Try it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you might actually like it. I mean, like, I have seen some shows that are off Broadway that are phenomenal.
Totally.
My worry is that this like generation, and when I say this generation, like I'm 30 years old, like I'm not a far cry from a Gen Zer myself. So like, talking somewhat tongue in cheek, but my worry is that because of technology and because of like social media and influencers, unless you got inspiration from somebody you follow to go try something, you might not consider it otherwise. And then even then, your perception of that experience or that item or whatever it might be is going to be based upon whoever fed it to you and not your own motivations or like, desires, right? And so I just don't know, on this notion of like taste, right? I don't know if we necessarily are going to be able to raise a generation that has taste anymore, given the technology we have. I don't know. That's kind of existential, but yeah.
I think you're right, though. I think you're right, because when everything is told you, like, this is the cool place to go, this is the cool thing to wear, this is the whatever, you have to subvert that very, very intentionally. And I think, honestly, travel is a lot like that, because I absolutely love going places that everybody goes to.
Right.
Because they're great places, because everybody goes to them. But there's also lots of places that I've been that people don't go to, that a lot of trips, like when I went to India, people were like, why did you go there? Why would you want to go there? And I was like, not only did I go there, I went twice and I loved it.
Right.
Because you loved it, though. Like,
Right.
you centered yourself in that experience and weren't paying attention to whatever so saying about it.
Well, I also think there's something to be said just in terms of getting to experience where the things that have been fed to you come from, right? And you see this in fashion where, like, oh yeah, I got this cute thing at Zara, or I saw it at Forever 21 or whatever, you know, sort of the lower dollar Shein or whatever. But like, that's 3 generations down from where it came from, right? It was produced by this designer for this thing in this season.
I believe it was the Yves Saint Laurent Miranda Priestley again. Sorry.
I love her so much.
And you're like, oh my God, we totally like appropriated this for fashion or style, or you're in your beautiful rugs and the lamps and just all of the amazing pottery. And you're like, oh, this is actually the source. And so just even seeing sort of the art, the community, how people live, and, you know, P.S. you see my right there, Kirstyn?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, can you see my tagine?
Oh, we can see it. Can we see it?
Yeah, it's on the back. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, on the rack in the back. Kind of like lower. Yeah.
My new oven has a little circular like cooker, and I was like, oh my God, it's for my tagine.
Tagine. Yes.
It's from Morocco.
Ideal.
I'm putting out my tagine that I brought home from Morocco and painstakingly carried on a plane to make sure it did not break.
Well played.
Being in the space and experiencing those things is so different, because then when you see it again, you're like, oh, this reminds me of Morocco. Whereas it's just sort of like another aesthetic thing that was curated online otherwise. And I think getting to the source and experiencing things in a more visceral, holistic, authentic way is so important. Even if you have, you know, something that's a proxy or, you know, a redo or the cheapy version that you can get here. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Well, it's interesting, Sam, that you said that, because 2 things. One, if you look at people who are tastemakers now, like if you look at people who are the influencers and genuine influence, they're outside. Like, they're doing things. They're going to events. They're going to gallery openings. They're traveling. They are making things. They have not lost their tactile senses on purpose, because, Maddie, to your point, like, the tactile is what gives you taste. Like, taste is earned. You can't put it in an algorithm. You can't pay for it, as we've all seen. Hello, have you seen people who all of a sudden get money and have no taste? It does not work. Like, that's a real thing. But
yeah,
something that we talk about a lot at the Fabrica, and Sam, I think it teeters back to your point, is that when we were talking about, like, what's the difference of the Fabrica in terms of the properties that we will be building, it's that there's stays that become part of your story. And that's what we wanted. We want you to go home and look at a tagine or look at your stove and say, that's for my tagine, because Morocco Sam is a very specific Sam, but that Sam is the same person who's a phenomenal lobbyist, but she's also got other parts to her. And that is how you start to cultivate taste. We're moving from, because the algorithm has put so much information in front of us, we are moving from a culture of taste used to be, if you know, to now it's you had to be there. And that's a very specific arc. So the way to develop that is to go, is to do. Like, you can't fake the funk on taste. And I think that in a world of AI slop that we're all about to see, someone could fake an Instagram photo dump What they can't fake
100%.
is the clothes that they're wearing, is the jewelry that they wear every day, is the tagine on their stove. That was part of their story, and they went and they were brave enough to go get it. And that's a real difference in who that person is. That person has taste.
Oof. Oof. I feel like we just ended it right there. Like,
There's going to be people that are watching this and be like, that sounds like that bitch Adama.
She is an adopted big sister for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Shots fired.
That's why. That's tough.
True.
So then for when you're creating a meaningful trip, how should we think about it? Is it more important where we're going, or is it more important what we do there?
Or who you go with.
Or who you go with.
Right, because I want to come back at some point to your comment on psychographics earlier, because I wrote the word down, because that comes into play on the quality of a trip. So great point.
Yeah.
100,000,000%. Part of why I figured out that I didn't want to do travel planning is because of this exact question, Adama, right? Like, there are people that I feel so strongly about designing for them because I like the way that they see the world. I like the way that they move in the world. These are people who, learn how to say, even if it's with a terrible accent, it doesn't matter. If you learn how to say thank you in a country's language, by the time you're ended on like day 1, day 2, you are my people. Like, please don't walk around. And it's okay. Like, you can walk around and say thank you if you want. You just can't roll with me. And that's okay. Like, that is fine. But
what is it about, Kirstyn? Sorry to interrupt you, but like, that's actually a very like profound point to make, because what you're effectively saying is that you appreciate people who are willing to assimilate and step outside of their own comfort zone.
So I would put it slightly differently. I have an ethical principle that if you are communicating, it should be to create a shared space of understanding. And if you're not doing that, to me, my question is kind of like, why are you talking? You're just trying to get a point across.
Right. Why are you here?
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Continue, but I think that's a really interesting,
amazing point.
Yeah. I appreciate, it's something where I had a professor, you talk about all those flags. I did have a professor who shaped that worldview for me in undergrad. But because of it, I said, if ethical communication is us trying to understand each other, how can it possibly be that I would be ethically communicating if I don't bother to try to speak your language? Like, you're speaking mine, but I'm not bothering to learn yours. How privileged, how pious, how pompous. And like, I'm spending time in your home. The bare minimum I can do is, if you're inviting me into your space, is to be gracious and to show gratitude in a language that you could understand. Like, that just seems so baseline to me. It's not baseline to everyone, but I'm also okay with not building for those people. There's enough space that's designed to keep you comfortable in a bubble. There's plenty of it. Oh, yeah. And people have made billions of dollars creating that. I think you can be comfortable, but still learn more about yourself and someone else. So when I think about designing travel, that does fit into where you go and who you go with. Because if you're not traveling with people who are like that, you're going to have a really rough trip.
Whew. Facts.
Yeah, I've been on a few of those trips. Like, I remember very clearly at one point, we'll not mention who it was, but in France, and the French are a special breed, right? But they are especially up in arms if you don't try to
my goodness.
them. Like, just say merci. It doesn't need to, you can say like merci or, whatever. But as long as you try, and I was with some people who just were so annoyed that they were being treated whatever which way by a server at a French restaurant. We were in Paris. And I was like, you didn't even try. Like, of course they're assholes to you. They're not even actually being assholes to you. You're the one being an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. So completely agree. Anyway.
That's tough.
So how do we start choosing destinations that are going to be more meaningful? How should we think about that? I'm going to assume you're going to tell me not to open TikTok and like look at trending travel.
No, I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to go.
I sent Adama a TikTok location the other day, or an Instagram location. It was like, we should go here. I think I sent it to you and Nazi, and then I got a response back that was like, this isn't even a real place. This is like AI depiction. Yeah. I was like, oh,
Real.
No.
like, but I really wanted to go there. They're like, this like defies the laws of physics. You can't even have a building on a cliff like that, Sam. Like, oh.
Sam, I love that you were down for the fake adventure, though. I love.
And Adama knows how ridiculous that photo was, too. I'm like, that.
So dumb. I'm going to find it.
At least that.
It was like, Sam, are you okay?
You guys, I wasn't even drinking wine or anything. I just thought it was really pretty.
I'm done. I'm done. You talked about it to end the episode. That's the episode.
That's it.
So, I'm just grateful I didn't send it to Kirstyn and be like, girl, is this on your radar? I've been seeing
Stop. Oh my God. She would have been kind to you and just been like, no, it's not.
She would have
Me
been,
and Nazi were like, are you okay?
he was the person who would have been like, is Sam okay?
I'm screaming.
So yes, we're not going to open TikTok.
We're not. The goal, TikTok has its place. That's not it, though. That's where we start.
Sam. I love you.
What I would say, I know that this is not like the top of everyone's brains, but oddly enough, at least from a tech standpoint, I think you should start to look at things like Pinterest more often. People actually don't use Pinterest nearly as much anymore, but if Pinterest is a much faster tool to learn than your Instagram or TikTok or almost any other like tech platform algorithm like that. I happen to put in like Holbox, Valladolid, and Oaxaca de Juarez. And Oaxaca's, I mean, Sam and I have talked about this at length. Adama, we have two. Like, Oaxaca is one of my favorite places, but I haven't spent enough time in the Yucatan. And the moment I did that, Pinterest like rearranged itself around me in under 5 minutes and actually gave me like real recommendations, really interesting things. If you don't want to start with tech or you just don't really know where to start, honestly, pick up a Condé Nast. Like, pick up an architectural digest.
So the way that people used to learn about things.
Literally.
Right.
Like, use the technology to accelerate it, but go look for something tactile and tangible. And then also find a friend that you think travels well and just ask them.
Yeah.
Like, people, God, it is just human nature. People love to be asked for their expertise. And if you tell someone, hi, I really like the way that you move through the world and I want to like plan a trip coming up, could we get a coffee? They will probably buy you 4 martinis in return to be able to regale you with tales of all the places that they've been and photos, but you will
DM me if you want to hear about my travels. Just
right.
anytime, literally anytime. It's like my love language.
Because it's a part of your story. It's a part of who you are. And like, everybody loves that. So I think we can make this much more community oriented. Like, talk to people. Go talk to the guy at the newsstand. You have no idea how many of them have been incredible places while you're picking up your Condé Nast. Just shocking.
And you know, when I first started traveling, you're so right about that. I mean, I used Lonely Planet and TripAdvisor. And TripAdvisor still has incredible boards where if you're like, how do I get from like one tiny city in South Africa to another tiny city?
Yes.
Which, you know, is relatively niche. Yes. You will find boards and boards about it in TripAdvisor. And I always have loved that for planning kind of off the beat travel and, you know, something that everyone hasn't gone to, because even I found that in areas where everybody has been, you know, like south of France or whatever, Mallorca, wherever you're trying to go, there are still very small places, still small towns, still incredible restaurants run by one or two people. There's still amazing experiences to be had in the world that have not been all over the internet. And that is one of the wonderful things about travel. And you can still go find that.
Yes. And go walk around when you get there, because that's also 90% of it. Like, ask the baristas, ask the bartenders. I am notorious for sitting at bars in other countries, having one drink and asking them, where do I go next? I have found some of the best bars in Lisbon that way. And they're all
you also
friends.
Make friends. Like,
right. Yeah. We're friends. And now they're friends. So when I go, I never have to make a reservation. A drink is always for free. I don't have to make reservations at Le Cheval d'Or anymore. And they've got a Michelin nod because I sat down and I talked to the, right. I sat down and talked to her. And
I was also very good at this. I will tell you, any restaurant, like we go to, like, what was that place? Cocoduck or whatever. And like, what was that? What was that place where we went for chicken?
Oh, we went to Double Chicken, Please.
Oh, Double Chicken, Please. I was thinking,
I like
you think about Coco Duck, but
I was thinking about Coco Duck. I couldn't remember where we went.
There.
Okay. Well, so we go into Double Chicken, Please, which is like impossible to get into. Kirstyn gets us in. And then she, like, out of nowhere pulls out like a bottle of mezcal and starts and she's like giving it. She gives it to the server, to the bartender, because she had been in there before. And like, she's like this woman's child's godparent now, because she has like built this insane relationship off shared love of mezcal and whole cloth. And that is Kirstyn in a nutshell. Like, she does everything.
I just want to say that I'm really adept at talking to bartenders, but like, I clearly am doing it wrong.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I will definitely say that you are not talking to the right bartenders, because Kirstyn be talking to the bartenders at like seven-star hotels in Fez.
Right. Yeah. Kirstyn calls you and is like, I met a new bartender, and you're like, great, where are we going for dinner and what are we trying? I call you and say I met a bartender, and you're like, you cannot marry a bartender, Samantha.
You could. I don't see anything wrong with that. Look what happened with Miranda. She did great. Well, that ended up going on. But
I'm like, with who?
That's like
Miranda, Sex in the City.
Sex and the City.
Girl, no.
I thought she was like a lesbian now or something on that.
Well, it turned out that was the case. So
I was gonna say that actually ended real bad.
This is actually
it was okay for a long time.
Yeah. Anyway,
so there you go, Sam.
Make her bring Jersey too. Like, no, all of this was bad.
Oh, true.
Anyway, I just finished, and just like that, so it's top of mind. But Kirstyn, something you were saying actually that resonated around, it's like, I have this thing where after I go to a city or I live in a city, I like at the airport, or like after I had the experience, I go into Canva now. And like, I've sent Adama like a guide I created when I went to Nantucket earlier this summer. And I just like create like a 1-page document that basically is like all my recs and like my like Maddie notes in terms of like, try to sit here or like get this dish or whatever. And I spend like, an hour or two doing that before I leave, because I just want to like brain dump and have it be fresh. And anytime I have a friend, then going to those places, I'm like, here, take it. Like, I just like want to share my like insight. And I never really thought about like why that is. But I think you're right that it's like, it's this like shared humanity and like amazing like experience to get to like have with another person, where you can be like, you got to experience how delicious that was, or you got to sit in that gorgeous hotel bar, or like whatever it might be. And like, now you have this, like, it's a story, like you said, in common. And like, what a powerful thing, to be able to share that with another human being.
Yeah. And it's beautiful that you do that, right? Like, there's so many people who are going to say, oh my God, can we be friends off of something that small? Because to you, you're thinking, okay, I have to get this out so that I remember it. But what you're also giving is something for someone else to remember. Like, how lovely is that, right? I think so often we get caught up in so much of the mess, and humans are humans at their core. We're narrative creatures. a lot of us want the same things. I mean, besides like some really weird ones, we'll leave them to the side. They make everybody else's life hard. But in general, humans enjoy being connected with each other. You're creating more room for connection, not just with yourself, but with other people. That's a really beautiful way to spend your time.
I also
and that's what you're doing now with Fabrica, which is like so amazing. You know, that's at its core, right? Like the mission. I mean, I don't know if you have a mission statement officially, but like when I think about what you're doing, I'm like, what an amazing thing to be like trying to bring people together over these beautiful experiences.
Well, I think we touched on this earlier. And people who travel to that degree are just a different type of people. Like I very rarely run into someone who does a bunch of international travel, has been all over the place, other than the people who kind of live in like the Ritz-Carlton bubble. We'll put them in the bubble. That is like not an interesting person who wants to communicate and share their viewpoint and is not open to other people. It's very rare that you find like a closed-minded, hard-headed, rude
traveler
that does that kind of travel. You just don't. And
you can't be a traveler and have that kind of mindset. Yeah. I mean, I would say that. And, you know, it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of the discourse with like people who are like, oh yeah, a lot of Americans don't have a passport. And then other people are like, well, America is huge and very diverse, and you can spend a lifetime traveling within the United States. And I think there's a lot of validity to both points. But I do think there is something very important about getting outside of the American bubble and seeing how different news sources think about the U.S. and our policies, looking at like Le Monde or the Financial Times or whatever, and just hearing other people talk and hearing what people are talking about. I mean, honestly, one of my most transformative trips was visiting Israel, because it was so surreal to have grown up with a bunch of friends who struggled through Hebrew school, and then hear an entire country of people who only speak Hebrew on the news, in the newspapers, in everything. It is only Hebrew, and it's wild to hear it. And then it's also very interesting to have seen in what close quarters the Palestinians and the Jewish people lived, right? How the Dome of the Mount, right in the middle of Jerusalem, like all of these things, it gives you more of a perspective on everything that you think you understand about the U.S. Going to Colombia in South America taught me that I didn't really understand anything about drug trafficking, right? I didn't understand anything about cartels and what they look like and how they exist and why they exist. And I didn't understand anything about immigration. So like the getting outside of the U.S. is really important. Obviously, visit Appalachia, visit all of these other places, but get outside.
I completely agree. I think that the challenge, you know, I was curious to ask you about this, Kirstyn, too, given what you're working on. Like, so many people just simply cannot afford to travel, right? And so, like, even though they might desire to go experience these places, they never will. And like, travel is such a privilege. And there are billions of people around the world too who will literally never leave the country they were born in, maybe even
the town,
village or the town. Right.
Totally.
So I'm curious, you know, based upon the kinds of people you're working with and the kinds of people who will be like customers eventually, or, you know, or clients, like how do you juxtapose the fact that yes, so much of humanity will never be able to do this versus, you know, like what you're trying to accomplish with Fabrica? Like, very broad question, but like, how do you think about that, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. And I'll be totally honest, right? There's, particularly working with artists and with creatives for so much of this, I use the phrase, I have my bifocals on, because when you are entrusted with large sums of other people's money, there is a responsibility that you have to give them a return on investment. That is just the reality. I know people don't like to hear that. I think I wound up working in 2 major banks because life needed to beat that into my brain so that I could get anything creative done. Like, that was my universal path so that I can sit there and wear the bifocals. But I think on the other side, you have to choose where you want to be impactful. And where we have chosen to be most impactful is actually in the emerging economies where we are building these properties. Because the reality is there's a lot of tourism where there's a lot of wealth influx to places where there's arbitrage. Even with the euro being higher than the dollar right now, you going to places in southern Italy, most Americans that are going there have a lot more money than the people who are working in hospitality there. When you're going to Morocco, and it used to be, 10 to 1, it's not quite now because the dollar's lost value, help. But otherwise, even if it's like 8.5 to 1, there's still a very real sense of arbitrage there. What we have actually done, and most funds don't do this, we did a propco and an opco, which basically means like fund property sits over here. The opco, we sat over here, but we've created it as an incorporation so that we can give equity to people in the emerging market the same way that you would if you were working at a startup in the United States. So I cannot necessarily solve for everyone. That's an impossible task. And to be frank, as a woman of color, that's not a task I'm willing to take on. I take on enough. However, what I can do is solve for the markets where we are entering. How do we do that in a way that's fulfilling for those people too, so that then they have the opportunity to live a different life? I think you just have to be clear with like who you're solving for. And
love that.
We're not just solving, my partners in Morocco are French. They have already built a property. They already have artists who are incredibly diverse, who are artists that they represent, who are ready to pull Morocco back into their storyline. And what they're doing is they're funneling money into a country. But what we're doing is we're giving that money back to the staff in a different way. So I think you just have to kind of pick which Legos you want to move and where you feel like you can play.
Yeah.
Does that solve for people who are in small towns in America? No, it doesn't.
No, but that's not what you're solving for. And
no,
that's completely, and that's completely fair and logical.
Yeah.
And I also, we talk a lot on the show about like, pick your thing, like whatever that is that you want to fix, to change, to solve, like, because you can't solve everything. And like, to your point, especially as a woman of color, like, no, like there's plenty of other shit that people still need to figure out that you don't have to. And I think that you've honed in on, your thing and like what you want to do. And I think that's amazing. But a lot of people never even get to that point.
Right. And I also think this will really resonate because I'm, like you said, I am also someone who likes to travel and have like intentional experiences. Like I like to meet elected officials when I go places. I like to visit.
That's a special breed.
I know I'm a whole mess, but I like to see like Capitol buildings. I like to see, things like that. And I think that will resonate with people as you're talking to them about what your company is doing. The fact that there is a give back piece to it and there is some kind of like equitable distribution with it is
amazing.
That is really impactful to me. And I would much rather affiliate myself in my travel with something like that.
I love that. And I know when we talked about this even back in Morocco, and I'm sorry, I'm dying because I just a moment ago realized that Sal had a cone on his head.
Yes.
I'm like, oh,
my dog is behind me just doing the most with a cone on his head.
I was like, what is, I was like, is he stuck? Oh no, it's a cone. But Kirstyn, I remember you talking about how important it was to you that there was some, component of not just give back and philanthropy, but really investing in economies with the people that are there in the community. And I think that, is symbolic of even what Adama was talking about with your relationships with restaurateurs and bartenders and others, just the desire to have that shared connection and give back that makes it such a more meaningful experience than if you just parachuted in somewhere and, traveled all the beaten paths. So,
well, I appreciate it. My thing is, look, you can go to all of these places, but my goal, and I love La Mamunia, I've stayed there, it's beautiful, but I always tell people, if that's where you stayed, you went to La Mamunia, you didn't go to Marrakesh. Like, my goal is for people to actually, in a very comforting, like in a comfortable way, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a real thing. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel safe, but you can't get to esteem. You can't get to connection. You can't get to self-actualization, the parts of the pyramid that make us a more richer, fuller version of who we are if that baseline isn't taken care of. But you also can't be walled off from everyone else. Like, there has to be this very specific balance of comfortable and expansive, because I don't think that it's uncomfortable. I think it's expansion. So how do you do that? But if we're not doing that with our funds in these countries, if we're not doing it in Mexico, if we're not doing it in Morocco, if we're not doing that in Egypt, in Kenya, in Ghana, where partners have already reached out to me, people that I know who have said, we want to move forward. How do we do this with you? If we're going to co-build, I don't want people completely inequitable. Like, that doesn't work. And yes, you do get paid for bringing the money and the idea. Like, you deserve to be paid for that. I know that there are entrepreneurs who listen to your show. There should not be guilt around that. But also, it needs to benefit the people who are there.
Correct. I love that. Well, we are almost out of time, but we want to ask you just a few more questions about your kind of travel and what you like to do. So if you could put together a quick trip for a fall or winter getaway, where would you go?
Oof. So most of the listeners are still in the US, yes?
Most.
Okay. So deeply underrated. Everybody goes to Napa for harvest. Why don't people go to Paso Robles? Like, I don't understand. Like, I am perplexed. Please go. It is
Thank you.
beautiful. It is beautiful. The wine is fantastic. The
My brother worked at Dow Vineyards for a bit, and
big mood.
Oh, Dow's great.
Yeah. Crawford. Mm-hmm.
Big mood. As a Maddie, you mentioned I lived in San Francisco. I grew up on the East Coast. I am the bicoastal elite that everybody hates a lot of the time. But like, what I will often
It is I. You want Adama. Actually, no, all of you. I'm the only one that has on the East Coast.
We're all the toxic. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Lean into it. My bad. But if you are an art lover, I would also encourage actually the Milwaukee-Chicago corridor. I know that sounds
that was out of left field. Okay.
I'm right now.
I know my friends from the Midwest are like, we have turned you. I'm like, not quite, not quite, but I do appreciate. Milwaukee has this St. Kate Arts Hotel, which is beautiful. They always have an artist in residence. If you go at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday, the artist that's there will actually walk you through their space, what they're creating, what they're curating. It's a beautiful experience, and Milwaukee is darling. And then you're so close to Chicago, which has one of the best art gallery scenes in the country.
Wow.
It is absurd, and so many of them are owned by women and diverse women.
Okay.
And Chicago may have a food scene that may rival New York / the Mexican.
I believe
better.
That is true. Chicago's food scene has been fire for, I think, the last decade, frankly.
I was incorrect. I take back any slander I have ever said about the city of Chicago. I am a fan. I will not be wearing a Cubs hat, but I am a fan.
I have a firm no Cubs fan rule.
Fair. I want to know about that over a drink. Thanks.
All right, Chicago. My husband and I were not supposed to leave the country until he's held a green card for 2 years because of the current environment around immigration. Our boy was advising, stay put. So we have until June next year. And so we're just looking at it as like, okay, well, there's plenty of places in the US to go see between now and then. So I think Chicago is going to go on our list for pretty soon because that's an easy jaunt from SF.
Just not November through like April.
Correct. Truly fall.
God, we got to get there like now then. Okay.
Yeah. It's like
about October 17th.
We'll never forget boiling on the top of Wrigley Stadium with you, Adama. Like,
oh my goodness, at that Cubs game, it was like 100 degrees. It was wild.
I didn't even know I could sit places.
We couldn't even sit in our seats because they were like in direct sun. Like,
Ew, that's terrible.
Oh my gosh.
it was brutal. It was brutal. But no, Chicago's a great town.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
Kirstyn, if you had a travel mantra, what would it be? And we'll go around. And I'll start because mine is Shania Twain. Let's go, girls.
I love that.
I'm deeply unsurprised, but I wasn't ready.
I was not expecting that at all. So like that should set the tone for yours, Kirstyn. Like, just, you know.
So mine is like completely opposite direction. It's
Okay, go. What is it?
I mean, I do want the girlies to come though. I would say leave your bubble at home. Like actually just experience where you are. Be present. Leave a lot of your expectations and just go.
Love it.
I'll go next. I don't have like a mantra so much as like a mentality that I try to take on more and more. And like, this is getting kind of deep, but I used to never be able to like really enjoy food because I've had like every eating disorder in the book. And travel actually, I think, cured me of my eating disorders because like going new places and just like really enjoying the cuisine and not thinking about macros or calories or all those things and like really just sinking into like vacation mode. It changed my relationship with food at home. And so I always tell people, yeah, like when you travel and like including myself, I'm like, don't be in like the same mentality you are. And it actually end up like shifting that when you get back. And so, yeah, I'm a big foodie now. And I like love experiencing local food and drink.
I love
so, yeah.
that. Love that.
Yeah.
Just mind you,
Ma'am.
so we're doing this.
Yeah. I just bared my soul, lady. Go.
And as we've discussed on previous episodes, because I will keep myself busy. If I don't have enough work, I will start a new company. I will always have 3 jobs and 4 projects and to this and to that. And, you can find any excuse not to go. You can find any excuse, to just put it off. And at some point, I had a long relationship that ended, and my ex did not love it when I traveled. It was all my girlfriends used to loathe traveling with me because my phone would be like, bzz, 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 where are you? What are you doing? Whatever, the entire trip. And so when we broke up, I had this very reflexive, like, oh, I can't say yes to that. Like it'll be an argument, or I can't say yes to that because I'll have to. And I just sort of committed, like anything that I have that feeling that I'm going to say no, I was going to take a year and just say yes to it instead. And so that was the motto for that year. And I think I traveled to like 5 countries that year. Like I really just said yes to a lot. And so now I will just roll it out. Like she says, girls, let's go. And I'm like, I guess we're doing this. And we'll just figure it out as we go along.
I love that.
That's life. We're going to just figure it out as we go along.
We're waiting for
That's right. I mean, it could be worse. You could be careening through a trip with a dude who doesn't even like you. I mean,
yeah.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Done that.
No.
Don't
So Fabrica and Empower trip 2026.
Yes.
I mean, Julianne and Cyrielle, who are my two partners, they've set up Riad Hardan Secret. One of the things that we're actually building out is a recording studio because we've got a lot of artists who have asked if they could come through for a residency. So it will be there.
Ken, all right.
You can't see me, but I'm like dancing. I'm dancing.
So we can see you, girlfriend. You are dancing in that swivel chair. That chair be swiveling.
I'm talking to Kirstyn because I know you've been building on this for a while, but I feel like every time that you talk about it, there's some new, shockingly well curated, super interesting, exclusive, like very addition to this plan. Like, oh yeah, and by the way, we're gonna have musicians and artists and all these things, and I'm just like, God damn, like, okay.
Wait till you see who's running the leather atelier, because it's two Italian fashion girlies. I think you two will look great.
Their atelier.
Mm-hmm.
That's another word that you said, and you have to do a little shimmy.
Yeah. Atelier. Yes.
Atelier. Love it. All right. Well, Kirstyn, we are so proud of you. We love what you're building. If you are a serious investor, reach out, because Kirstyn is fundraising.
True.
I don't really know what the terminology is or what the rounds are, but Kirstyn's a finance girly, so you can talk to her about it. But thank you so much for joining us. We would love to obviously have you back on again another time to talk more about travel, more about taste, more about culture. And we look forward to hosting an episode of the Empowherment Show at one of your properties.
Mm-hmm. First one in Morocco, and we'll tell you marhaba. So if you're welcome.
Marhaba. Inshallah.
Inshallah. I love it. Yes. Perfect.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And have a great week. If you haven't hit subscribe, make sure you do. And yes, again, Kirstyn, thanks for being on.
Of course.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.